Golf Central. Brought to you by Titleist.
Didn't take long for the reigning Web.com Tour Player of the Year Wesley Bryan to make his splash on the PGA Tour. The South Carolina native becomes the first South Carolinian to win the RBC Heritage. A final round 67 does the job for him to get his first PGA Tour victory. With that, welcome into Golf Central. Very happy Easter. I'm George Savarikis, Aaron Oberholzer, and Trevor Immelman. Guys, let's check out what we saw out at Harbortown for the final round of the RBC Heritage. The start of the day, Jason Duffner had the lead at 13 under par. So Wesley Bryan was 4 back. Here he is at 7.
Well, in the middle of a run of birdies, this would be his 4th in a row if it can get there, and it does.
Got him to 12 under par, and guys, the desk was thinking the Chasers, no chance. It was going to be one of the final 2 groups, but Wesley Bryan, he had other thoughts.
Oh, man, that one. Trying to play the little draw around the corner there and just catches it out the toe. Low snap hook into the trees, goes into that lake you see there.
He was lucky to make bogey.
Escaped with the bogey. Ali Schneiderjans was a big part of the story as well, par 4-9.
Absolutely flushing his irons. Didn't need driver a lot here, the speed that man creates. But his wedge game and his irons were on fire. First in proximity for the week.
So he was at 13 under, was a co-leader at that time. Graham Dillette, 7th for birdie.
And this was after a bogey at 6. Beautiful iron shot in here and a great putt to keep himself up there near the lead.
Graham, a co-leader at 13 under par as well. Par 4, 8th, and we saw this was a tough tee shot for Wesley Bryan. Here's Graham Dillette.
Well, this is where it all kind of started to go pear-shaped for Graham. Everything was feeling good, and you think, oh, he's just going to play a little butter cut out there to the right, which is where you want to be. You don't want to be to the left. That pond is pretty far left. That was not a very good golf shot. And then Graham, who continues, boy, that was really steep right there, Trevor. Continues to struggle with his short game and game inside of 50 yards, and that would lead to a triple bogey.
Ali Schneiderjans, his 3rd shot out of 11.
Nice action there from Ali, trying to run it up uphill on the green here, so just leaving that one short.
And these are the type of putts you got to make if you're going to win on Sunday.
Interesting putting grip. They're barely grabbing the grip with his right hand. Just pushes it out to the right.
Greens played tough today. I mean, there were a lot of nasty little hole locations out there where the ball looked like it was going to break one way and it broke the other. But for this guy, George, when he's in the bunkers, you can pretty much count on it getting it up and down, as he was perfect from the bunkers, but this is extra perfect. Extra perfect.
How good is he out of the bunker?
Ridiculous.
So after that double on the second, Luke Donald trying to fight his way back. The birdie there got him to 10 under par.
I've heard he's illegal with the out of the bunkers in at least 7 countries.
At the hard par 3, 14th hole, he's on a little run here right now, and another beautiful iron shot. And at this point, we were wondering, is Luke going to come from way back to win his first Heritage?
When he made the double on number 2, I said, there's no way. There's no way. Count him out.
So he was at 12 under par. Wesley Bryan, his approach to 13.
And Wesley with some fantastic wedge play. And, you know, when the ball's stopping like that on those greens and they were firm, you know you've got good numbers.
He was at 12 under, another wedge in his hand on the next hole.
And this is the strength of Wesley's game. Beautiful wedge player. Tough pin here right in the front of the green. And the distance control and spin control is perfect, leaving himself a good look at another birdie.
So he was at 13 under after the birdie there and a 1-shot cushion. Schneiderjans on 17.
Now this is for par. He pulled a pitching wedge from 170 some odd yards. This hole was playing today with a pitching wedge. Crosswind too, so maybe that was a little out of his league. Maybe he should have gone with a 9-iron and swung it a little easier.
So he was 2 back. Luke Donald for birdie on the last to tie the lead.
And he needs this to tie the lead. It's a good-looking putt, perfect speed, just slips by the left edge.
So Luke Donald in the clubhouse at 12 under par. Wesley Bryan playing his 2nd to the last.
Well, not known for his ball striking and his shot making, known more for his short game and his work around the greens, but hit 2 of the biggest shots that he needed in his life, young tour life so far, on 17 hitting the green, and there on 18 hitting that green and leaving himself just a 2-putt.
Trevor, I can imagine the adrenaline pumping for Wesley Bryan right now.
Absolutely. Not the hardest putt in the world, but the biggest moment of his life in golfing terms. Cozies it up there close enough for him to go ahead and tap that one in and get his first PGA Tour win.
Wesley Bryan, the South Carolina native, takes the RBC Heritage. A clutch par on the last as he holds on by one shot with the win. Bryan, of course, gets that 2-year exemption on the PGA Tour, an exemption in the Players, tournaments like the Memorial and PGA Championship, 500 FedEx Cup points. Won't have a long drive to Augusta. Here's Bryant with Steve Rakowski.
4 shots back beginning this final round. Wesley, what was the game plan at the start of the day to just at least try to get yourself in the mix, let alone win?
I've played number 1 great all week, and I knew if I could get off to a hot start, I'd be able to put a little pressure on the leaders, and didn't birdie 1, and then number 2 made another pretty poor par, and then bogeyed the 3rd hole. And honestly, there were doubts, and then turned it around, made those 4 birdies in a row, and kind of slung myself back in contention. And from there, honestly, I got a little lucky that the leaders didn't keep going a little bit deeper, and they kind of stalled out, and I was able to make a couple on the back 9 to catch them.
What were the emotions like coming down the stretch on that back 9?
I got really nervous, I'm not going to lie, but was able to keep it together, and I was hitting quality shots coming down the stretch, and it was things that I was able to do last year that I could draw on experiences, knowing under the gun last year I was able to perform. And honestly, the only thing different here is just the golf course and the names on the leaderboard. So was able to kind of draw on that experience and use it to my advantage.
Speaking of last year, 15 months ago, you had never played in a PGA Tour sanctioned event. You win 3 times on the Web.com Tour, now a PGA Tour winner. How has this happened so quickly?
I don't know. I mean, Will Ferrell said it best, that escalated quickly. Honestly, I got no idea. It's still kind of surreal, and maybe one day I'll wake up and kind of realize that what's going on the last, I don't know, 18 months or so has been pretty special.
Your first win, obviously special, but what does it mean to do it here in the state of South Carolina, a place you've called home for at least 22 of your 27 years, to become the first South Carolinian to ever win this event?
It's really special. This is one behind any major I would put up on my list pretty high. So to be able to knock it down, especially in front of the home crowd, they were awesome out there today. I got a bunch of cheers when I did stuff good, and a bunch of encouragement when I screwed up a little bit. But it was really, really special to do it in front of this crowd.
Wesley, congratulations. Well done.
Thanks, Berko.
So, guys, basically, we should just give Wesley Bryan the claret jug in July. If past history is any indication, you see guys who won Web.com Tour Player of the Year and then got to win the following season on the PGA Tour. What are you going to say there, Aaron?
Well, it took him a few years to get that Open Championship.
This is true. Yeah. So we'll give him a decade or so.
Yeah, both those guys won Open Championships.
It's been a wild ride for Wesley Bryan to get to the winner's circle. Remember him as the trick shot artist. He and his brother George made their YouTube trick shot videos. Then he was on Big Break in 2015, the Palm Beaches, along with his brother George. And last year, Wesley Bryan was named Web.com Tour Player of the Year. Bryan won in just his 3rd start at the Chitimacha, Louisiana Open with his brother George as caddy. Wound up winning 3 times that season. Today, he breaks through and wins on the PGA Tour. So, Trevor, what did you make of his performance to be able to close things out, especially standing on that 18th tee box knowing he had a 1-shot lead?
Oh, I thought it was so fantastic, and he showed some great mettle down the stretch. And I was fortunate enough to play with him in the first 2 rounds in Puerto Rico. And I was so impressed. First of all, a fantastic attitude. A great guy to hang out with, good laugh. And I was so impressed with his short game, his wedge play from 100 yards and in, and one of the most calm, comfortable putters that I've ever played with. And it was so great to see him come through today and play some great golf. Here's some examples of that. This is his 2nd shot into 13. Just dialing in these wedge shots. You can see he feels so comfortable. He's 27 out of 32 scrambling this week, which is so impressive. That's a pretty tight pin location there. You really got to dial that in really well. And this is, again, on 15, his 3rd shot, the par 5. Feeling all the pressure here. Gets the distance control perfect again and goes ahead and makes a birdie there. like I said, such a beautiful putting stroke. You can see it's almost like he was born with a putter in his hand. His grip looks so comfortable. The tempo of his stroke is fantastic. This was his approach shot into 16. Just beautifully in sync there. You can see the short arm follow through. Great distance control again. And he really, by far to me, looked the most comfortable player coming down the stretch. This was the putt for birdie. Another great putt, just underread it a little bit. But man, was that impressive. Didn't look like a guy who is scared of winning.
No.
And you can see last year, 3 wins on the Web Tour. Really comfortable in his own skin. He understands his game. He stays authentic to his own game. He plays to his strengths. And it was fantastic to see him go out there and get that first win. I'm sure there's a few more to come.
And today on Sunday, it looked like he was almost a veteran out there, especially on the back nine. How battle-tested as the Web.com tour made him to be able to win this quick?
Well, I'm more and more impressed with the guys that come off that Web.com tour, and it just speaks volumes about how difficult it is not only to win on that Web.com tour, but for Wesley Bryan to win 3 times. It is tough out there, and those guys are strong, and some of them will actually even say, kind of under the radar, say, hey, we're the 3rd strongest tour in the world, wink, wink. And we can argue that all day, obviously, but they really feel that. The guys, those Web.com tour players, they take pride in that and how strong that tour is, and they're producing great players coming off that tour year in and year out, and continue to validate the tour's decision to get rid of Q School. And even though I wasn't a huge fan of that, it's beginning to work out because the players that come off that are playing fantastic and right out of the gates, and that's now the 4th winner we've had, Wes. That's the 4th guy that's won off the Web.com Tour Finals from last year. So it's obviously validated itself, and it's fantastic to see.
And we got a long way to go. He's from South Carolina, now lives in Augusta, Georgia, punches his ticket to the Masters next year. Going to be able to sleep in his own bed for his first major championship as a pro. That's pretty cool.
That will be extremely exciting for him. He will have a lot of fun with that one. And that short game will go a long way at Augusta National.
Trevor, how much does that free him up now to have a win on the PGA Tour, especially with everything that comes with it, and it kind of validates his self-belief? And
in such a short space of time, only his 18th PGA Tour event, he's going to move comfortably into the top 50 in the world now. So many doors are going to open from a World Golf Championship, major championship. He's going to have to start adjusting his schedule a little bit, maybe playing a little less, getting some rest. But it's all good stuff to have to worry about, George.
Let's just be careful, though, because I don't want him to start changing his game too much, because there are a lot of guys, they get that first win and they look at their stats and they go, okay, what can I totally overhaul and make better? And sometimes that can be a trap that these winners, that when they know they have a 2-year exemption and all this time on their hands to work on things, they can fall into that trap over and over again. And I do caution guys about that from time to time.
That is fantastic advice. And I will say this, in playing a couple rounds with him, he seems so comfortable in his own skin, understanding his game. I don't think he'll fall into that.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
One guy who certainly fell into that trap, who finished 1 shot back of him, was Luke Donald after he got to world #1 at one point in his career. We've still got a lot to come on Golf Central. Donald, for the 5th time in his career, a runner-up in Hilton Head. We're going to have more with him. Plus, a big change for Lydia Ko, and it has nothing to do with her Rolex ranking. That story ahead. And stick around to see what's in the drop zone. Some of the best and weirdest from the week that was.
Golf Central is brought to you by Titleist, the #1 ball at the RBC Heritage. Bushnell Golf and the Pro X2 with enhanced slope switch technology.